Hi and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
Tonight, we are tracking the deadly flooding emergency in Kentucky from that huge winter storm system. At least 8 people killed by the rising water. Emergency crews launching more than 1,000 rescues. And nearby, a levee break, forcing people in Tennessee to rush to higher ground. 4 confirmed tornadoes touching down in 3 states. Plus, the impact on travel. Thousands of flights delayed or canceled today alone. We are tracking all of it. The Secretary of State in the Middle East ahead of high-stakes talks to end the war in Ukraine. And President Trump now sharing new details about the lengthy conversation between U.S. officials and Vladimir Putin. Dramatic video as a cargo ship slammed by rough seas runs aground. The race to get the crew off safely. Dangerous outbreak of measles in Texas. Cases doubling in just days. Health officials now sounding the alarm. It may be spreading.
This is NBC Nightly News with Hallie Jackson.
Good evening. We are coming on the air with winter's wrath. At least 11 dead after a powerful storm races across several states. Kentucky, hardest hit, devastated by flash flooding. Tennessee, swamped. In Georgia, wind-struck trees and power poles.
I'm Skyler Henry here in Atlanta as utility crews race to clean up and restore power. Down trees and whipping winds claiming at least 1 life in Georgia.
The big chill, snow and icefall plasters the Northeast. Invading Arctic air, dropping temperatures fast. The forecast ahead. Also tonight, beyond depraved, the crime that New York State Police are calling one of the most horrific they've ever seen.
This is by far the worst homicide investigation that our office has ever been a part of.
Rubio reset.
I think we share a common goal. We want to see every hostage released.
America's new top diplomat in Israel trying to reshape post-war Gaza and beyond.
I'm Chris Lipsey in Tel Aviv as the region weighs Trump's plan for what he calls Riviera of the Middle East.
And later, it's a lion seal's life. Their population booming in California and drawing sightseers.
I would like that calling for you for a date.
Yeah.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York. Good evening, I'm Nancy.
Sola, mamá. ¿Eres sola? Sí. ¿Qué tantos años tienes? 2.
¿Ah? ¿Viene con tu mamá o tu papá?
Well, not only have we seen migrant children abandoned at the border, but we've also seen kids and toddlers being thrown over the border wall under the Biden administration. Fortunately, President Trump is reportedly making it more difficult for unaccompanied minors from being released from federal custody, which in turn would discourage parents from sending their children to the U.S. alone. Meanwhile, Trump also wants to amend the 14th Amendment on birthright citizenship, writing in part on Truth Social, quote, "The 14th Amendment right of American citizenship never had anything to do with modern-day gatecrashers. Our lawyers and judges have to be tough and protect America." Even Trump's biggest critics are now admitting that the president could successfully challenge the 14th Amendment on birthright citizenship. As 2 constitutional scholars argue in the New York Times, the Supreme Court has held in the 1898 case United States versus Wong Kim Ark that children born here to permanent residents are citizens, but it has never squarely held that children born to those illegally present are citizens. You know, Griff, first I want to go back to that heart-wrenching video of those children at the border and just how devastating it is. Hundreds of thousands of children who have been sent here alone across the border are unaccounted for at this time. What can we do at this point?
You know, Nicole, what's so heartbreaking is that even late in the Biden administration, they did stiffen the asylum requirements to try and bring the numbers down, and they declined significantly from the height of their unprecedented crisis. But children kept coming. Why? Because they exempted children. The children would still be allowed to stay. It's like they never figured it out. Here's a short snippet of one of the ones. I'm with Texas DPS with Lieutenant Olivares and Lupe Caceres, and literally walked up on a child that was abandoned. Watch this.
This week with George Stephanopoulos starts right now.
Doge dismantles Washington.
People voted for major government reform.
Elon Musk takes on the federal workforce as Democrats struggle to fight back.
This fight is about hard-working people versus the billionaires.
This is part of the most corrupt bargain in American history.
But are their counterpunches having any impact at all? I'll speak with House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, a This Week exclusive, and Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin, President Trump's government shakeup. An end in sight? I know that President Putin wants to make a deal. President Trump kicks off talks with Vladimir Putin to end the Ukraine war, as Vice President Vance picks a fight with Europe. What does this mean for President Zelensky?
Maybe there is something at the table, but not on our table.
Martha Raddatz and Ian Pannell join us on the stakes for Europe, America, and the rest of the world. And
My attorney will handle the legal part. I'm going to handle running the city.
top federal prosecutors resign after refusing to drop the corruption case against New York's mayor. Aaron Kantersky has the latest, plus our roundtable on the battle within DOJ and the courts.
From ABC News, it's This Week. Here now, Jonathan Carl.
Good morning. Welcome to This Week.
A winter whiteout in Ontario and Quebec this Sunday night. The onslaught of snow, the treacherous travel conditions.
So we've been here all night.
And what's next in the forecast? The U.S. prepares for peace talks with only Russia. The amplifying demands that Ukraine and Europe be included. The campaign to buy Canadian.
There are things that we just don't grow in Canada.
The challenges for companies and complications for customers. And Saturday Night Live turns 50 years old. The Canadians who have helped make the show a pop culture cornerstone.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Carolyn Jarvis.
Good evening and thanks for joining.
65th Conroe. Hang by the cold round.
Why scroll when you can listen with your daily companion, the ABC Listen app. Today, flood warnings remain in place following Cyclone Zelia, and Pilbara residents told they can't return home until damage assessments are complete. The New South Wales Premier talking tough with rail unions, and Sydney's train commuters are caught in the middle.
The government cannot give in to the union's blackmail of the New South Wales government.
Rising tensions with China. The Trump White House changes key language on Taiwan as Beijing warns Western warships away. Keir Starmer offers British troops as peacekeepers in Ukraine, while Russian and US officials hold talks to end the war. And borrowers hope for long-awaited relief as the Reserve Bank mulls its first cut since 2020. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Gemma Vaness, coming to you live for the first time from our Parramatta studio in Sydney. Hello and a very warm welcome to you. You're watching Daybreak here on France 24. These are our top stories. Geotalks on Ukraine, a meeting of European leaders in Paris set to discuss the continent's peace proposals and look at its own security situation, while US and Russian negotiators meet in Saudi Arabia. 2 weeks hour left in the first phase of the ceasefire in Gaza. Talks for the second phase expected to finally start this Monday. Israeli negotiators headed to Cairo. And less than a week to go to snap parliamentary polls in Germany. The far-right Alternative for Germany party currently polling in second place with 20% of the vote, a potential record tally for that party that prompted thousands to take to the streets to protest against them on Sunday. Good to have you with us. Well, also coming up, the papal thriller that took 7 years to make, The Conclave. Tink's Best Film at British Film Awards, the BAFTAs. It took another 3 awards as well, putting it on a par with The Brutalist, which is about a Hungarian Holocaust survivor. It scooped up Best Director and Best Actor.
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Paul Singh. At this hour, Singapore's leader of the opposition, Pritam Singh, is found guilty on 2 charges of lying to the parliamentary committee regarding a former MP's false statement. The prosecution is pushing for the maximum fine of $7,000 per charge for the Workers' Party chief. Top U.S. officials are said to be heading to Saudi Arabia for talks aimed at ending Russia's nearly 3-year war in Ukraine, leaving European countries feeling sidelined. Israel's Security Cabinet said to meet to discuss the next phase of the truce in Gaza after top U.S. diplomat Marco Rubio and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu showed a united front on their approach to Gaza and Iran.
Tonight, we're following several developing stories as we come on the air. At least 8 people are dead, including a mother and child, after historic flooding in Kentucky. Plus, the high-level talks that could reshape Europe and the Middle East. We do begin with that deadly flooding. Kentucky's governor is calling it one of the most serious weather events in a decade. Many of the deaths are attributed to people being trapped in flooded cars. Officials say they've made more than 1,000 water rescues. Up to a half foot of rain has washed out roads and sent cars into ditches. There is widespread damage across the South. A tree crashed through a roof in Georgia. Hundreds of flights have been canceled, thousands more delayed. Our weather team is following it all, including high winds in the east and a bitter cold blast in the week ahead. President Trump takes in the Daytona 500 while overseas crucial talks begin. Israel's prime minister praises what he calls a bold vision to rebuild Gaza and resettle its population. Secretary of State Marco Rubio calls for Hamas to be eradicated. Negotiations on Ukraine's future are expected soon. Russia's invited, and Ukraine's president is also demanding a seat at the table. Also tonight, a deadly attack in Austria is now being called an act of terror. 6 people were stabbed, a teenager killed. Police say the suspect from Syria was inspired by ISIS. The Justice Department fires more than a dozen immigration judges as the Trump administration moves to shrink the federal government. The firings come despite a growing backlog of millions of pending immigration cases. 5 arrests are made in a shocking and brutal murder. The victim was a transgender man who police say was tortured for months. Authorities are calling it a horrific crime. Flu activity is now at record levels in the U.S. with nearly 30 million cases this season. Why experts say there's still time to get vaccinated. Plus, the bitter rivalry on the ice. 3 fights in 9 seconds as the U.S. battles Canada. On the road to the Oscars, who took top honors at the BAFTA Awards, and the emotional home run. Why the coach called it one of the most inspiring things he's ever seen.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight. Africa News. The news.
Cheers, but also uncertainty. This is how rebels from the M23 group were greeted by a crowd of civilians upon entering the city center of Bukavu in South Kivu. It is the second regional capital city in the Democratic Republic of Congo that the rebels have taken since early January, when they launched a lightning-speed offensive on Goma in neighboring North Kivu. M23 marched south into Bukavu on Saturday, although conflicting reports initially made it difficult to confirm the extent of its advance. Congolese soldiers and allied troops from Burundi had reportedly retreated from Bukavu's military bases on Friday. Reports emerged of sporadic gunfire and the looting of a World Food and supermarkets in Bukavu, while many residents hid in their homes throughout the day Saturday. Faced with the growing risk of a regional war, the international community has stepped up its calls for de-escalation and a ceasefire. At the African Union Summit in Addis Ababa, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on the international community to urgently act in support of Sudan, where the humanitarian crisis continues to escalate. Addressing a high-level conference on Sudan, Guterres emphasized the need for tremendous leverage for good.
Sudan is in the brink of a crisis of staggering scale and brutality. A crisis that is increasingly spilling over into the wider region, and a crisis that demands sustained and urgent attention from the African Union and the broader international community. Humanitarian access remains a fundamental challenge, particularly where the fighting is most active.
He highlighted the bravery of local responders and women-led organizations providing aid in dangerous conditions.
Civilians, including humanitarian workers, must be protected. Rapid, safe, unhindered and sustained humanitarian access must be facilitated in all areas of need. The external support and flow of weapons must end. This flow is enabling the continuation of tremendous civilian destruction and bloodshed.
Next week, the UN will launch a $6 billion humanitarian plan to assist millions of Sudanese people and refugees in neighboring countries. A tragedy in Mali as dozens of people, most of them women, died after an illegal gold mine collapsed in the west of the country on Saturday. Union leaders say the victims had climbed into the open pit left by industrial miners in the hopes of finding small pieces of gold. Rescue operations continued well into the evening as emergency services and volunteers worked to extract survivors. Officials say many people have been injured and that the death toll is likely to rise. The disasters highlighted the dangers associated with informal mining, which has surged in recent years. It's the country's second deadly mining accident in less than 3 weeks.
Our top stories. Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, says he is ready and willing to put UK troops on the ground in Ukraine to help guarantee its security. Sir Keir Starmer will attend an emergency summit in Paris tomorrow as European leaders attempt to retake the initiative over those peace talks. Well, the meeting will be hosted by the French President Emmanuel Macron, who's determined the UK be closely involved in all future discussions about Ukraine. It comes amid growing concern over US efforts to agree a deal with Russia to end the war, which European governments fear will damage security on the continent. Meanwhile, President Trump has sent 2 of his closest foreign policy advisors to Saudi Arabia for talks with Russia, which will also be attended by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Neither Ukraine nor Europe have been invited, but Donald Trump says he wants President Zelensky to be involved and says he could meet with Vladimir Putin very soon.
I think he wants to stop. That was my question to him. Because if he's going to go on, that would have been a big problem for us. And that would have caused me a big problem. Because you just can't let that happen. I think he wants to end it. And they want to end it fast. Both of them. And Zelensky wants to end it too.
The government says the NHS is on the road to recovery after meeting a key election pledge. New NHS figures show an extra 2 million appointments were delivered in England during Labour's first 5 months in office. The additional appointments delivered in part by extra evening and weekend working, and it follows figures last week showing total waiting lists fell in December for the fourth month in a row. Sir Keir Starmer says he knows the job isn't done and has promised further reforms to deliver faster treatment. And the Brutalist and the Papal drama Conclave were the big winners at the BAFTAs with 4 awards each. Conclave got the Best Film Award, although Ralph Fiennes missed out on the Best Actor. That went to Adrian Brody for his role in The Brutalist. His fellow American, Mikey Madison, won the Best Actress category for her role in Anora, about a sex worker who falls for a Russian oligarch. She pipped Demi Moore and Cynthia Erivo, amongst others. The Star Wars actor Warwick Davis was honoured with the BAFTA Fellowship for an outstanding and exceptional contribution to the screen, and the team behind Wallace and Gromit picked up 2 gongs for their most recent animation, Vengeance Most Foul. And that is it for the moment. Now it's over to Headliners.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.